Welcome to the Awesomers.com podcast. If you love to learn, and if you're motivated to expand your mind, and heck, if you desire to break through those traditional paradigms and find your own version of success, you are in the right place. Awesomers around the world are on a journey to improve their lives and the lives of those around them. We believe in paying it forward, and we fundamentally try to live up to the great Zig Ziglar quote, where he said, "You can have everything in your life you want if you help enough other people get what they want." It doesn't matter where you came from, it only matters where you're going. My name is Steve Simonson, and I hope you will join me on this awesomer journey.
If you're launching a new product manufactured in China, you will need professional, high-resolution, Amazon-ready photographs. Because Simo Global has a team of professionals in China, you will oftentimes receive your listings photographs before your product even leaves the country. This streamlined process will save you the time, money, and energy needed to concentrate on marketing and other creative content strategies before your item is in stock and ready for sale. Visit simoglobal.com to learn more, because a picture should be worth 1,000 keywords.
Well, you're listening to another Awesomers.com podcast. This one is episode number 41. And you can find the show notes and relevant details that we talk about in today's show at awesomers.com/41. That's awesomers.com/41. Today, my guest is Regina Peterburgky, and I'm sure I'm mispronouncing her name, but Regina is an extraordinary entrepreneur. I'm thrilled that she was able to join us. And listen, she's worked for 30 years without a salaried job. Regina considers herself to be unemployable, which is a trait that I think is common with a lot of different entrepreneurs. In fact, she had the realization about 3 years ago that the business she was in would not get her the financial freedom or goals she set for herself. And she was propelled into becoming a new breed of the Amazon entrepreneurs. These are the folks that I often call Amazon Cornerstone businesses, where they have decided to be in the e-commerce space, but they're going to focus first on using the Amazon marketplace, gaining some leverage, gaining some scale, and carrying on from there. And it was a really great revelation she has within the episode. You're going to hear it live coming up just in a minute, and a really great journey that she was been able to take herself through. She's been able to escape the 9-to-5 rat race and build a lifestyle of her own dreams through building her business. Regina has tried her hand at many careers in life, succeeded in some, failed in others. That's just kind of how things go for us all. She's done everything from selling advertising, cars, and insurance on commission to traveling the world as a tour director for 10 years. And she most recently, before her Amazon business, owned a wholesale manufacturing and fashion business with 2 retail stores to manage. Ooh, that's a lot of work. It was during a difficult time in the last business that the lights literally went on, as she says, that aha moment, if you will, and she saw the opportunity that the Amazon business was able to offer. And now, as a successful Amazon seller, Regina spends her time building Amazon brands and helping others do the same. And she's also single-handedly raising her 9-year-old daughter and acting as a housemaid for their 2 opinionated cats. You're going to be loving the fact that we have Regina on today, and I'm glad you're here. Okay, Awesomers, we're back again. Steve Simonson today, joined by fellow Awesomer, Regina Peterburgky. How'd I do?
You did great, Steve. Well done.
See, I'm trying to get my average on pronunciation up, but I'm not that good at it. I'll be honest with you. So I appreciate the positive reinforcement of getting that right. Regina joins us all the way from Australia today. Is that right?
That's right. Melbourne, where it's a chilly about 10 degrees Celsius. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, but we're in winter anyway. And it's just after 5 a.m. here.
I'll do the math for those who can't do the Celsius to Fahrenheit math. That is 900 degrees Fahrenheit. No, that's a chilly time of year down there. It's winter time. And Regina was kind enough to get up at 5 in the morning to get a time slot here. So thank you for your extra effort to join in the party.
Oh, I'm honored to be here, Steve.
Well, it's definitely my pleasure to get you on here. So I always like to have you start with a summary. I've already read kind of your bio and some of the background to the audience out there, but maybe tell us in your own words, what takes up your time day to day? What's consuming you day to day right now?
Consuming me, well, right now I'm heavily into chatbots, but generally I live in Melbourne. I have a 9-year-old who I'm raising on my own. So she takes up a lot of my day, as do my 2 very demanding cats. But how I make my money is I'm an Amazon brand builder. I do a little bit of coaching as well. And I'm currently in the process of writing a book about amazing, awesome Amazon sellers.
I love it. Yeah, that is a book that probably will have pretty high demand. There's so many extraordinary examples out there. I just love meeting the folks just like yourself. So, and then how long have you been in the e-commerce space in general?
In general, well, I launched my very first website, which was built by my brother-in-law on, with string, I think, about probably 14 years ago.
Nice.
And of course, that was right at the cutting edge, certainly here in Australia, of a fashion website, and it was a dismal failure. Sold absolutely nothing, but it was an interesting experience. Then probably about 7 or 8 years ago, I had somebody who I paid a lot of money build a website for me, and I was selling baby clothes, which actually went quite well. I got very deep into SEO, and that did quite well until Google did one of its penguins or pandas or some animal update, and I lost, of course, all of my rankings. And at the same time, I was still in my retail business, so my energy was taken back into retail. And so that website, which was doing quite well for some time, all of a sudden was not doing quite well. So if you've got any children or grandchildren coming up, I still have a few baby clothes in my in my garage.
I love it. This is a great example for folks out there, especially if you haven't been around the e-commerce space for a long time, to remember that, that magic pixie dust that was Google SEO worked really great for a long time. And if you told any of us at the time, before the menagerie of animals attacked us and reported us, that this magic pixie dust would suddenly dry up, that a lot of people would say, oh no, that's not possible. There's always a way. There's always a way. But Amazon, not Amazon in this case, Google got really good at their algorithmic and machine learning and AI kind of implementations. And they basically discounted so much of the things that used to work that they took us out of that SEO business. Is that how your experience went?
Look, for me, it was a combination. It was partly that, but it was just as much my own personal attention that my retail business needed my energy. So I had to take my focus off the website daily SEO things that I was doing very, very white hat. So I had to take my attention away because my retail business needed me. So it was a combination of those things. I wasn't able to react to the animal update.
Yeah, boy, they were wild animals for sure. Well, listen, before we dive a little bit more into your background, we're going to take a quick break. But as always, I love to kind of get to the root of the Awesomer origin story, and we're going to do that right after this.
Hey, Amazon Marketplace professionals, congratulations on your success to date. Your creativity, strategic vision, problem solving, and discipline have allowed you to build your own e-commerce business. Wouldn't it be great if you had more time to focus on the things that truly drive the sales and growth of your company? Instead of getting lost in a dozen different services and countless spreadsheets, what if there was one system that connected to your Amazon account and automatically gave you the information that you needed to make great decisions and really impact your business? Parsimony ERP can do that. Parsimony is the business operating system for your marketplace business. With Parsimony, you get true double-entry bookkeeping, easy financial statements, full customer service tools, and item-by-item profitability, along with project and task management, and more features are being added all the time. Learn more at parsimony.com. That's Parsimony, PARSIMONY.com. Parsimony.com. We've got that.
Okay, we're back, everybody, and we're talking with Regina today, all the way from down under, if I can use that term. Is that right?
On top.
No,
you guys are. It's upside down. We're on top.
You're on top. This is a revelation. I hope people are keeping notes.
We flipped the globe up.
Yeah, we are now down under here in.
That's right.
I like that.
That's right.
Okay, so let's rewind and go back to the very beginning. Where were you born, Regina?
I was born in one of those shithole places. I was born in Kiev in the Ukraine when it was part of the former Soviet Union, which of course nobody knew who the Ukraine was or where it was. So of course I used to tell everybody we came from Russia, which of course now people know that Ukraine actually is its own independent country. And we emigrated as refugees to actually New Zealand when I was 7 years of age. So English is technically my second language.
It sounds pretty good so far. I'll
Uh,
keep you honest if it goes into. So you probably speak Ukrainian or Russian?
no, Russian. Russian was my first
Oh,
language.
interesting. Yeah.
And I very rarely speak it these days. I still understand, but
Right.
I'm not a fluent speaker anymore because my parents, when we immigrated, they wanted their children to integrate. And so we as a family made a concerted effort to learn English so that my sister and I didn't have very strong Russian accents and when we grew up, because as I said, my parents thought it very important that we integrate into our new country.
Fascinating. I like that. Tell me, if you will, or if you
Mm.
can, what did your parents do at that time?
Well, my parents did pretty much the same as a lot of refugees. They did anything they could to support themselves. For the first few years, they each worked 2 or 3 jobs. My father worked as a manual laborer on building sites, and then became, you'll remember this, Steve, from a previous conversation, he actually became a meat boner.
Yeah, one of my favorite terms ever. I just have to say, and I'm thrilled we got it on the record today. What is a meat boner? Just so that we
A
can.
meat boner is like the surgeon of butchery. So between the abattoir and the butcher, there is a person or a team of people who actually takes the meat from large animals off the carcass so that it's small, so that the butchers can slice it up. So
Amazing.
it's a very hard, actually manual labor. But yes, it's quite precision. So he was often coming home with knife wounds in his various body parts. So yes, and then my mother worked at a telephone exchange and then a bank. They also both worked extra jobs in fast food restaurants. As I said, anything they could to get us on our feet. And
I
funnily
love that.
enough, a few years later, when they were able to afford quite a nice house in a nice neighborhood, and people would say to my father, "Well, haven't you been lucky?" His response was always, "You know what? The harder I work, the luckier I get."
That's true for us all, I believe.
Isn't it just? Yes.
It's I just love that kind of the beginnings of the story, because it just reminds everybody that it doesn't matter where you came from, it matters where you're going, right? And your parents
Exactly.
stopped at
Yeah.
nothing to give you guys opportunity and to create opportunity for themselves, and they earned what
Well,
they got along the way.
oh, absolutely. And it was all about us. There's their life, as tough as it was, probably would have been better if they had remained back in the old country.
Fascinating.
But they certainly did it, and then went through a lot of struggle. My father was in his 30s already. My mother was in her late 20s when we came, and they did it all for us, for my sister and I, for the opportunities so that we could have opportunities they never could.
I love it. That's a boy. The beckoning of freedom really does call
Oh,
people.
absolutely,
Yeah.
very much so.
So you mentioned your sister, and I'm
Yes.
wondering if she has any entrepreneurial bent, or what type of work she does.
She is the total opposite. She is a lawyer. She has 2 university degrees. So I joke, my sister and I have an average of 1 each. So she has 2, I have none. And she is actually a senior lawyer for one of our government departments here in Australia. She is non-entrepreneurial. So it's sort of the polar opposites.
It is such a fascinating, same parents, same kind of
Yep.
refugee story, same upbringing, and yeah, the 2 different paths are so interesting,
Totally different. Yes.
fascinating. Now, so obviously, you did not go to university.
Oh, I did.
Oh,
I
did you?
did.
Oh, tell us
Yes,
more.
I just failed. I failed
Oh,
miserably. I
I
went to
love
2
it.
different universities. So I gave it 2 goes. But formal study was not for me because I had sort of sailed through school. Did quite well, never learned how to study. So I failed, twice at
I love that.
two different universities.
You did literally gave it the old college try, and but you didn't take to college because you didn't like the studying and didn't like the environment. Is
I
that how I
well,
think?
well I just didn't get. I didn't have the discipline of actually going and study, and also I was out in the workforce. I was myself working 3 jobs by then and was having such a great time earning money, going out, having fun, that I decided that the workforce it was for me.
I love it. Yeah, that is so. When you were in that experience in university, did anything stand out? Did you have any memory of uh, things you liked or didn't like? Anything you care to share?
Well, when I was supposed to be studying economics, I spent most of my time in the library poring over Salvador Dali art books. Um, and when I was supposed to be studying pharmacy, which was my first training, I was actually getting really interested in psychology. So psychology of human behavior was what really interested me most. So my second course was economics and psychology. Unfortunately, when I got to the university side of psychology, it turned out to not be so much human behavior, but all about rats and stats, as we say over here. So statistics and rats. And so I didn't find that was really what I was very interested in. It was more human behavior that was of real interest to me. And it was only when I actually got into sales that I discovered that that's where you really learn about human behavior.
Yeah, quite right. Rats and stats can only do so much.
Yeah.
So tell us about your first proper job. Maybe after university, you're dipping your toe into some water there.
Oh, look, my first proper job was actually while I was still in high school. I was working in a retail store, in a pharmacy, just a shop assistant, so after school and Saturday mornings. And after university, university, I again went back into retail sales because that was the only thing that I'd sort of had experience. So I was working in a retail store selling clothes until that store was bought by a new owner, and that owner wanted to run it herself, so I couldn't run it anymore. And I was absolutely devastated. And so I went and found myself a job actually in telephone marketing way back in the 80s.
Wow,
and
telemarketing.
I think it was telemarketing. And I think it was possibly, this was in Perth in Western Australia, it was possibly the first telemarketing operation as such, as we know them today. But back then it was brand new. We used to ring people on the phone, give them a sales pitch and ask for their credit card right there and then. It was unheard of. And so that was really my first true foray into what I consider sales. And I absolutely loved it. And I did better than anybody else in the phone room. I was, I think, 19 at the time, and felt I deserved a promotion to be a manager with the company because I did so well. And I did so well because I was going out after, we only did 4-hour shifts. I would go out after my 4-hour shift, and instead of working through, I don't know, do you have those Dun & Bradstreet lists that we used to get? Sure. It was like we used to get these Dun & Bradstreet lists, and I thought, well, that was far too hard because we were trying to call executives of companies.
Yeah, so you're cold calling off of a.
So we were cold calling company managers, executives, and I thought, this is far too hard. So what I used to do was go downstairs. This was actually for the Hilton Hotel. We were selling those dining privileges cards. I don't know if you remember them way back then. So I would go after my shift and walk around the office buildings around the hotel and list down the names of the companies that were in the office buildings within walking distance of the hotel. And then I would just ring directly. I sort of basically forgot about Dun & Bradstreet. So I would just call them because it was easy. It was like, they're just around the corner. They're likely to come to the Hilton. And then the other thing that I used to do, which nobody else did, was I was always asked for referrals. And so those were the two things that I did that were different, that put me on top of the sales ladder. And when they were looking for a new manager and I put my hand up, they said, no, you can't do it because you're too young. It had nothing to do with my productivity, but at 19 I was far too young to manage people. So that was the first disappointment, main big disappointment of my career as such in sales. But that really got me a taste for sales and talking to people and solving problems for them, problems that they didn't even know they had.
Those are a common thing, a common theme in sales is help defining a problem. Well, you're actually presenting a solution to a problem they didn't know they had, but
exactly.
It's solved now. Yeah,
exactly. But here's a coda. 4 years later, I went back to that same company as a manager just to show that I could.
I love it. I love that. So now. We're going to have to pause and do some Australian language translation.
Of course.
You said a coder. Here's a coder.
Oh, coda. I think that may even be Latin. That's a postscript.
Okay.
You know,
All right.
just
Yeah.
to that story.
This is
Yeah.
like a tail end.
Yes.
All right. So that's
Yes.
everybody. A coder is a look back.
CODA.
A
It's not a
coda.
look
Okay.
back. It's a something that happens at the end of, or
Okay.
I'm not sure if
Postscript
yes, like a postscript.
All right.
That's
I
right.
like that. All right. Coda, everybody. We're expanding our brains right as we speak. As a little side note, and not to steal your thunder here, but I also did telemarketing, and I was in high school at the time, and I was a carpet cleaning telemarketer. But I got to call warm leads, generally speaking.
Oh,
They were
okay, right.
past
Yes.
customers, and it's like, hey, it's been a year. We should come over and suck your rugs. And that was, I did not like it, although I was pretty good at it, and it was easy enough to kind of hit my numbers and so forth. But I did not like it, and I'm very intrigued that you did like it. You enjoyed the.
Well, I enjoyed it once I got onto the referrals.
That was
I
so
did
smart.
not like the cold calling. It was, hey, Steve, I'm calling you because John told me I should.
Yeah.
And did he call you to let me know I'd be ringing?
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, it's so smart. And
That's when I loved it, because it was so easy. It was like, oh, you want 5? No problem. Tell me, I'll take your credit card.
what a great example of kind of breaking the existing paradigm that was there. Here, take this list, dial these numbers into, going to the high rises, figuring out what's what. And by the way, for those who don't know, that's how Alibaba started their sales training, their sales thing, is they assigned one salesperson per high-rise building. And it's like, go get all the companies in there onto Alibaba. And until that building was done, that person did not move on to a new building. And so they literally hired thousands of sales reps to do kind of what you just talked about. Maybe you pioneered the idea for
Oh, there you go. I should call Jack Ma and say, hey, where's my
stock is? Yeah,
yeah,
I like
that's
that.
right.
Put in a good word for me while you're on the phone with me.
We'll do.
So how about, is there any defining moment that stood out in your mind along your journey from then to now, whether it's, from university forward or whatever, anything that, kind of helped you kind of solidify your values or had a big takeaway for you?
Look, I've had so many over the years. I have spent a lot of time, energy, and money on my own personal development. So even though I never finished university formally, I have spent certainly more than 10,000 hours filling what's between my ears. I got involved with a personal development program called Money and You, which I think is still around, but it was this was a long time ago. It was actually courses that were being taught by Robert Kiyosaki before he was Robert Kiyosaki.
Wow.
On personal and business development. So there was a lot of things that I learned back then that I still hold in my life and business today. But really, for me, it's all been about goal setting and goal setting and sticking to your goals, and also knowing when to cut loose when things are not working. So I guess my most recent sort of aha moment was probably 4 years or so ago, when I was doing some serious looking at my life and goal setting for what I wanted for myself and my daughter in the future. And I came to the realization that the business that I was in was not going to get me there. And I had been so sort of attached to that. Yes, this is my business. This is my business. I'm going to make it work. I'm going to make it work. I'm going to make it work. And of course, the balance sheets had been telling me for years that was not going to happen. But it took for me to sit down and look ahead to realize that no, that was not going to happen. So all of a sudden, my mind was open to more opportunities. And when I was in that frame of mind to be more open, that I came across a person that you and I both know called Jason Fladlin. And the most amazing sales pitch I've ever seen, when he, for the third time, actually put the Amazon FBA opportunity in front of me, and I finally took it, and it changed my life and it changed my daughter's life. And as you and I know, changing a lot of people's lives. So that's probably the most recent life-changing event for me.
I love that as a defining moment because there's so many little pieces mixed in there, right? First of all, the evaluation of where, wherever you are, is it going to take you where you want to go?
Yeah.
And that's a hard conversation to have with yourself. right?
It is a very hard conversation, especially when I'd invested a lot of time. At that point, it had been 8 years in that business, and a lot of my personal money and energy and my own ego, obviously, attached to it. And I think that may have been the hardest to let go, to say, okay, well, this is not really where my life is going to go moving forward.
It often is our own egos that put a stop to progress. And I
Yes.
would definitely encourage people out there, especially if you do not find satisfaction, fulfillment when you wake up every day. If you dread waking up in the morning, it's time to take one of those personal inventories, whether it's your business, your job, whatever it is, and decide if you're on the path where you want to go. Is this path going to get you the level of fulfillment or success or whatever it is that you're looking for? And I salute you for taking that. Did you find once you kind of got past the difficult part of that, right? There's always the tumultuous reconciliation of, oh no, I don't want to do this. How am I going to undo this, right? Because there's the unwinding, there's all of that kind of noise that goes on. Once that cleared up a little, did you find yourself a little bit more free in the mind?
Well, yes. Well, once I'd made the internal decision that this was not going to be my future, then my mind opened itself to opportunities. And so I made that was sort of like New Year's Eve, 2014, 2015. And so right through that first quarter of 2015, I was looking at all sorts of things, because once you're open, opportunities start coming up. So I was like looking at this, looking at that, and the Amazon opportunity I had seen before. Funnily enough, I'd seen it in 2013 and I'd seen it in 2014. But because in my mind I was not open, I wasn't ready for it. And so when I saw it for the third time, I was ready for it, and all of a sudden it just made sense and went, oh, okay, that makes sense. So I jumped in, and I did that while I was still I didn't leave my previous business. So I started my first Amazon brand while I was still in my retail store.
Nice. It's a good way to kind of transition when you can have whatever level of existing support or income that you have, and you can kind of start to experiment with a new business model, a new idea. I love that. That's a great defining moment. How about, has there been any lesson that stands out along the way? Anything that just jumps out in your mind and says, gosh, I wish I would have learned that thing earlier?
Oh, all of it. I think for me, we all have 20/20 hindsight. I wish I had jumped on the Amazon bandwagon when I first saw it. I think before, I'm not sure if Jason Fladlin was even in on that stage when Matt Clark and Jason Katzenbach were first selling ASM1. I actually saw that opportunity and didn't recognize it for what it was. Because in Australia, firstly, Amazon at that point, nobody knew anything about it. But more importantly, because I wasn't personally ready for it, I was still attached to my fashion empire that was going to be.
Yeah, it's so the lesson you take away is
the lesson is to be more open and not tied, as I said, to my ego, and to really be more open to opportunities.
I think that's such a smart approach. It doesn't mean that we're going to get shiny object syndrome and chase every little thing that we see, but it does mean, again, particularly when those indicators are going off, like this is not fun. I don't like waking up every day. I had a retail operation at one time, more than one time actually, but I remember in the early 90s, maybe it was mid 90s, and I was comparing my retail operation to my e-commerce dreams. And I looked at my retail operation almost like working in a mine. I had just watched a show, Homer Hickam launching missiles. I forget, October Sky it's called. And it's a great movie. Anybody who watches it. And his dad works in this coal mine. And the coal miners literally are, the ceiling is maybe 4 feet. So they're all day long, they're walking with themselves hunched over. And then they do whatever digging or whatever it is they did. And that was a metaphor for, me being stuck in my retail stores, being bent over and just kind of dark. And I wanted to launch rockets with the kid. So that was what ultimately gave me the confidence and the wherewithal to kind of jump all into e-commerce. So a very similar story. I love that recollection of yours. How about along the way, particularly as it relates to the entrepreneurial side of things, is there ever been a time where you just simply wanted to back away and just kind of give up and maybe even go back to the old,
Oh,
sales jobs or cubicles or something like that?
go get a proper job. Oh, look, proper job, whatever that is. Oh, look, whenever there's a setback, of course. I had one not so long ago where quite a detailed marketing plan that I'd put together and spent a lot of time and money on sort of failed absolutely miserably. And I sort of took myself to bed and gave myself a pity party for about 24 hours. But then, as we do as entrepreneurs, we understand that we've got to pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off, and come up with a new marketing plan or whatever it is that we need to do. So yes, it happens quite regularly, but I think the difference between entrepreneurs and what do you call them, normies, is that we recognize that 24 hours is just about right for a pity party, and we then need to get back out there and do what we're good at.
Yeah, I definitely. Kudos to you for the nomenclature usage. You get that point.
See, I told you I've been listening.
Yeah, I like that. The bonus score for Regina just went up. But the contrast between awesomers and normies is often found in this idea of, are we in control or is somebody else in control?
Yeah.
Right? Are we going
Very
to,
much so.
kind of figure out how to solve the problem, or are we going to blame somebody else for the problems that exist? And honestly, that accountability is one of the singular, most important details that kind of separates the people who break the paradigms of normal and kind of find their own level of success and achievement. They define that for themselves, by the way. It's not necessarily,
yes, of course, yes,
whatever. But by breaking those paradigms, it's often because they just take accountability and responsibility, and they're like, this ain't working, I'm going to do something different. Instead of lamenting over and over,
woe is me.
Yeah,
Yes.
the man's putting me down. And, most awesomers and in general entrepreneurs will find that just doesn't work. You can't blame somebody else. You just got to take control.
It gets you sympathy, but it's not going to pay the bills.
I checked my recent bank account. Sympathy was not a line item on it. I could
not
even for a minute.
No, that's right. Yes.
So let me ask you to reflect maybe on a best day that you've had. In whether it's recent or early on in your career, was there any days that stood out in your mind?
Oh, you know what? The one that I keep coming back to was my very first Black Friday on Amazon. I had launched my first product in mid-August of 2015. And by Black Friday, I'd actually had to reorder because I'd sold out of my sample order in 3 weeks. And so Black Friday, I actually took myself off to the movies because I didn't want to sit there and scroll watching the sales come in. I needed to take my mind off. And, because of time differences and whatever, I think it was around 6:00 p.m. our time was when midnight rock took over in your time. And I was sitting in a bar by myself and the numbers clicked over to 200 units. Now, These days, we look at 200 units and go, but back then I remember it was 200 units. It was about $4,300 in sales. And Steve, I'm not kidding. I was literally crying tears of joy because for me, it was a validation that, hey, this could actually work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, so as I said, it's not the biggest day I've had to date by far, but it's the one that had the biggest impact on me. And I remember I was calling my friends who knew of my journey. Not many people knew what I was doing at the time, but I had a couple of very dear friends who I called, and I was crying saying, this is actually going to work.
I love that.
So for me, that was the defining moment of this particular business.
It is such a great thing to take that victory lap, right? Yeah. We get the pity party. That's a 24-hour run, but we should take the victory lap.
Absolutely.
Run. And
absolutely.
I really just love reflecting on those moments where things work. And, it's funny because I remember my first online business. We had a store. This is back in 1998. We had an online store and we had a secure shopping cart, the whole thing. But the way we got our orders was the system would fax the orders to us.
I remember faxes.
Yeah. Millennials, you can look that up. Hashtag fax.
Yeah, fax machine. Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we would just, when we first put up the site, no sales would come in, obviously, right? It's just kind of a, it's up there, it's in the clouds. We don't understand what's happening. We add content. We, get an email from here time to time. But sure enough, the fax machine would rumble up. And that first time you get the fax, you're like, hey, and you do the victory lap. And then after a while, though, the fax machine, it's going all the time. And that one moment is not as savory as it once was.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. That's right.
You find new thresholds, I bet. And
look, I've had my best selling day. I did $230,000 in one day.
I love it.
Which was amazing. But again, I still go back to that $4,000 day as probably more significant for me than all of the successes since.
Yeah, I definitely think that is a great best day. And before we cut to a break and talk about the future a little bit, I wonder if you could share just a tool or a piece of software, an app, anything that you use day to day that you think other awesomers out there would like to know about.
Look, my one that I can't do without is Managed by Stats. Shout out to Philip and his team over there. I also like to use Celex. And at the moment, I'm playing around with chatbots, as I was saying. So I'm actually using both ManyChat and Paul Harvey's Seller chatbot. Thanks for the recommendation. So I'm using them in tandem at the moment, doing all sorts of weird and wonderful stuff. So, but really, my one, if I could not use anything else, but would be Managed by Stats.
Yeah, it's a great program. Philip Jepson is a great, and not just guy, but a great engineer, and his vision of putting together that program has been very, very well received, especially if you're an Amazon seller and you want to manage your business. So that's a great shout out there, and well earned by Philip and the team. So now that we've got a little bit of background, we're going to come back and talk about the future a little bit, and we're going to do that right after this.
Empowering. The name says it all. Connecting e-commerce entrepreneurs with great people, ideas, systems, and the services needed to stay business dynamic and to grow. Empowery is a network, a cooperative venture of tools and resources to make you better at what you do, because we love what you do. We are you. Visit empowery.com to learn more.
Okay, we're back again, everybody, and Regina Peterburgky.
Yeah, well done again.
Joins us. Woohoo! That's 2 for 2, everybody. I'm going to send out those baseball. Well, you won't have these in Australia, but we have baseball scoring sheets, and it'll be how often I get the name right of my guest. Like I say, 50-50 might be an optimistic estimate.
Okay, all right. Well, you did well with me.
Woohoo! I'm back on the boards. So, as I like to think about things, and in fact, I'll reflect a little bit. I was on a message board on Facebook the other day. And maybe I'm breaking bad news to you. So you might want to sit down for this. It appears you are.
I'm sitting down. Yes, go.
Well, it turns out that the private label business is dead on Amazon. And this is
really
a post on Facebook. So it's real.
Of course.
The assertion was that that now the private label business is dead on Amazon. And there's a litany of reasons. Reviews are hard to get, and sales are hard to get, and China's taken over the world, and this and that. Kind of the normal things that you see out there. And I have my own response, but I'd be interested to hear what your response to that sort of.
I love this. I love it. One of my very favorite quotes, and it could even be a Robert Kiyosaki, but I'm not sure, was somebody said, if a business is so easy, any idiot can do it, all the idiots get in. And I think we're now at a phase where all the idiots are getting out. So I'm glad to hear that things are getting tougher, because it means that the people who are serious about business and who are serious about the opportunity have got a great opportunity to go out and build a proper business. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme. And I think for a while it was. That anybody could come in and slap their name on any product and off they go, woohoo, $100,000 a month. Luckily, I think those opportunities still exist, but I think moving forward, and people I talk to all agree that it's very much around building your brand, building it steady, building something of value rather than just slapping your name on any old silicon product or vitamin product or Evolve serum or whatever those first products were. So no, I'm glad these things are happening, because it's going to weed out the people who are looking for their next get rich quick scheme.
I think that is excellent kind of reflection and advice, because the reality is there has been a series of efforts out in the marketplace to I don't know, to make this into kind of a get rich quick scheme. You know, this idea of sell on Amazon, whether it's retail arbitrage or private label, without really understanding that, you know, a real business takes real work. That's just the nature of the business.
Yes.
And I would point out to people that the idea of private label is different maybe than branding, right? Private label is what you described, Regina, which is somebody takes a piece of equipment, you got the little cell phone, selfie stick type thing, you stick your own label on it. That's a private label. Yeah. And who cares? Because anybody can copy that.
Anybody can do that. That's right.
Price.
And they do, and then it becomes a race to the bottom. You know, they're not adding any value. They're not servicing a consumer need or want.
Well, and to me, the original sin is when they found the product by searching on Amazon, found something that was really selling, they knocked it off, and then they're outraged when somebody knocks them
someone
off.
else does the same thing, exactly.
As if this was a unique idea. So the principle of private labeling, on the face of that information, I'm not a big fan of it. Whereas I have no problem with branding, right? Creating your own brand. And you can even use that origin product as your basis, and then go, now how can I make mine unique and different?
Yep.
What am I going to add to it? That maybe it's a patent, maybe it's licensing, maybe it's just some new twist that makes it your own. Yes. And that is true branding, and that's where equity comes from.
Yes.
That's
I've been doing a little bit of coaching recently, and that's very much where I'm sending my coachees, is that what we call them?
Coachellas? I don't know.
People who I'm working with, helping them build their brands, very much in that direction. Is don't just do what everyone else is doing. Is what's your spin? What's your personal spin? What value can you add, and what equity can you add to your brand? Yeah.
Boy, that's such sage advice, because again, a business is not a little baby that we're trying to grow and rear up and grow into a big business. That's how businesses feel when you're first starting out. It's like, oh, this business has so much of my identity in it, and that's why our ego gets in the way if the business isn't working, right? Yep. And so we've got to separate that emotion to it and say, how do we actually deliver real value to a customer? Real value. And that, if you can do that, that's when you're going to get real loyalty and real equity and all the other authentic things that comes along with a real brand. So very, very good advice there. I want you to take out your crystal ball for a minute, Regina. Now, mine's in the shop, so I'm going to rely on you for accurate. What do you think is going to happen in the next 5 years in the Amazon marketplace? Care to pontificate with me?
Oh, look, I don't know, to be honest. I think it's going to consolidate a little bit. I think some, the good players are going to stay in. I think there's going to be a big washout. Well, there already has been a big washout. The people who sort of come in, slap their label on a product and do well for the first 6 months, and then, competitors come in, they get disheartened and they'll get out. I think there's a lot of room for new sellers who want to do it properly, whatever, however you define that. Amazon, as we know, is growing. Australia has opened up. Very slow here still, but we're getting there. I think they're going to continue opening new markets. I think there's a lot of opportunity both in the Amazon and in the online space still.
I definitely agree with you. How do you feel about the concept of, Amazon, or not the concept, just the reality that Amazon has basically said, hey, if you want to buy and you're in Australia, you're going to buy from our .au site, or, .com.au or whatever.
Yeah, .com.au. Look, as a seller who sells in Australia, I think that's great. as somebody who buys from Amazon US, not so much.
Yeah, I like
Look, I can see both sides of the story here. I can see why they've done it. They're using the excuse of our GST, which is a very valid, to be honest, it's a very valid excuse. So they're using that to drive people to the Australian platform, which needs more sellers. And it needs more customers. It's the circle. Until they have more customers, they're not going to have more sellers, and until they have more sellers, they're not going to have more customers because the variety is not there yet. So I can very much see why they've made that decision. You know, as a consumer, I may not agree with it. As a seller, I love it. But
particularly as an Australian-based seller.
As an Australian-based seller, that's right. Oh,
absolutely.
Absolutely. So, so as an Australian-based seller, I very much think it's fantastic. But I can see both sides to that. I can see how consumers are not happy about it. But it's partly because our government has changed our GST importing laws. That's what all websites that are selling into Australia now have to charge a GST. And I guess Amazon decided, well, we've got a platform here. Why should we?
Yeah. It is interesting to see the kind of constant battle between consumers and governments and platforms and the response to it. I do still think it's a wonderful opportunity for sellers and even Amazon at large. You know, I'm a critic from time to time on Amazon about, this policy or that policy, but I still believe for those who are willing to do it properly,
yes,
that it represents a very unique and extraordinary opportunity.
Look, the fact that you can build yourself a multi-million-dollar business with almost nothing to start with. I mean, you and I both know in retail, even if you start a retail from scratch, by the time you fit out a shop, you're hundreds of thousands of dollars in the hole before you even open your doors. To get into a business, and you and I both know people who have sold them for tens of millions of dollars after a couple of years. So to get into a business with almost no financial investment, just your time and your brains, and obviously you need a little bit of funds, but not a lot compared to pretty much any other business out there. To be able to do that today is still the best business opportunity I've ever come across. I mean, seriously.
It totally is. And you alluded to this earlier, but Amazon's growth rate alone gives you ample opportunity.
What is it, 20% just this year? Is it 20%, something like that this year?
I think it's trading even higher than that. In some categories, 30%. So it's remarkable that it continues. So, for all the things that Amazon is not doing well, I'm going to call them out on it. But when they do stuff that's really great, I want to also recognize that and give them full credit. So there's a lot of really good stuff that's out there. And e-commerce is more than just Amazon, just to be clear.
Of course.
There's a lot
absolutely. I mean, that's very much where my focus is. And don't know if I've told you, I'm writing my book. Very exciting. Yes. So I'm actually doing pretty much what you're doing as a podcast, and talking to just some everyday, ordinary people, not the Ryan Morans and Kevin Kings of this world, even though I adore both of those people. But everyday people who've come from non-business and non-e-commerce backgrounds who have been able to change their lives through this opportunity. And I think they've got some amazing stories to tell, and not just tips and hints, but also inspiration for other people who perhaps are looking at the opportunity. So that's what's consuming a lot of my time right this minute.
I love it. Well, those types, I call them origin stories. Those are so inspiring to me. And especially it's the everyday examples that aren't going to necessarily find their way to the stage. Those can be the most recognizable to the audience.
Absolutely. I have some friends here in Australia who live and work in middle of nowhere, like a little country town. And he used to be a bricklayer, and she used to sell clothes in a retail shop. And she actually got fired because the retail shop got shut down, and they have, I think, something like 5 or 6 kids between them. And they 4 years later are running a multi-million-dollar business out of their lounge rooms. And, inspiring, like totally inspiring stories of people. And if you met them in the street, you'd never know what they're doing. And again, this is people who would, as you say, would never be on a stage. They're not doing training courses. They're not marketing themselves. They're just quietly changing their lives and changing the lives of their families. That's what for me is inspiring.
Totally inspiring. I love that. I can't wait. How long will it be before your book comes out?
Well, we're hoping to launch before Christmas.
Okay, nice.
So I'm putting a call out. I have a lot of people that I want to interview, but I'm also putting a call out for anybody who themselves thinks they've got a great story or knows of somebody who's got a great story. I would love to hear from them to be able to interview them for the book.
Good. Well, we'll make sure in the show notes, whatever contact info you wish to provide, we'll put that in the show notes.
Absolutely.
Folks out there, I truly believe in, kind of networking in general. And this is a type of networking, even kind of virtual, right? The podcast is virtual. People tune in on and the book they read when they want. But
yes, absolutely.
Goodness, when people really see that with proper work, with diligence, not this idea that I'm going to click a few buttons and I'm going to retire to the beach. That's not right. But when they do the work, they can earn their way into some life-changing situations. It really is a revelation. So I can't wait to see the book. And when you're getting close to the launch, we'll try to get you back on here. Make sure we.
I would love that. That would be a real honor. Would love that.
Yeah, it's been a great time talking to you. So before we go, I wonder if you have any final words of wisdom out there, maybe for the awesomers who may be paying attention.
Oh, look, really, don't wait. Really, I think that's probably it. If there's something that you really want to do, and you're waiting for the right time, the right time is now. Don't wait. Just do it. I'll take something from Nike there.
Yeah. We'll investigate the copyright applicability.
The copyright.
Doesn't apply to Australia.
Well, that's why I attributed it. It's attributed. I didn't make the. Nice. I gave the correct attribution
I own some
to whoever the copywriter was that came up with that branding.
That's beautiful. But, it really is a smart thing.
But yes, it's really just don't wait. Don't wait. What are you waiting for? How is your situation going to change tomorrow if you don't actually take the step and do whatever it is that you've got to do? We all know what we have to do, really. We know it. We're just often too scared to take that step. And as I tell my daughter, what's the worst possible thing that could happen? And if that worst possible thing that can happen, you can just go, okay. So I'll lose a little bit of money. Okay. If I lose face, can I live with that? And the answer is usually yes. Because, if you lose face in front of people who love you, they're not going to care. And if you lose face in front of strangers, well, they're not going to care either. So what does it matter? Just go out and do it.
Oh, I just love that premise, because nobody cares about your failures except you. Nobody does. Exactly.
We get so tied into looking good and looking successful and, playing the game that we forget that nobody else cares. They might gossip about it for a day or two until, somebody else's failures is more exciting than yours. And then everybody gets on with their lives, and so should you.
Yeah, there's no point in waiting on somebody else's schadenfreude to slow you down.
I like that one.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of fail fast, and I think that's very, very good advice. Thank you again, Regina, for joining us today. Awesomers everywhere appreciate you, taking the time, and we really do like.
Thank you. Can I just quickly plug? I forgot to plug the name of the book.
Oh, please, yes, if you have it.
Well, it's still working title, but at the moment, we're calling it 13 Amazing Secrets of Amazon Entrepreneurs.
Nice.
So,
I like that.
And that will be the website, 13amazingsecrets.com. So it's not yet up. So don't everybody click on the website because it doesn't exist yet.
But it will exist. That's the point.
But it will exist. The name has been registered. The domain has been bought.
So your crystal ball is working a lot better than mine already. Yeah.
There you go. So I can tell you that website in some form will exist in the next couple of months.
Well, this is great thing about a podcast is you never know really when people are going to listen to this. The book may already be out. It may be out for a year by the time they listen to this.
True.
It could, in fact, be worth.
In which case, go buy a copy for a friend.
Exactly. But not just a friend, the whole office. Let's get this.
All of your friends. That's it. All
like
of your friends.
Well, this has been, again, a great pleasure. Thank you for getting up so early and, committing to the Awesomer audience, your time. And for Awesomers out there, we will be right back after this.
Catalyst 88 was developed to help entrepreneurs achieve their short and long-term goals in e-commerce markets by utilizing the power of shared entrepreneurial wisdom. Entrepreneurship is nothing if not lessons to be learned. Learn from others. Learn from us. I guarantee that we will learn from you. Visit catalyst88.com because your success is our success. And giddy up.
I just never can get enough of origin stories, and Regina's no exception. And I'm so excited about her new book, right? Where she's kind of taken a similar concept of this origin story, the everyday people that are having their lives changed. And, one could say even turned upside down, but not in a negative way, right? They're turned upside down and they're engineering their own lives in a way that is positive and productive. That's going to be an exciting book, and I hope that any of you who are interested will reach out to Regina and see if you can be a part of that project. It's so important. I love hearing a good origin story, and Regina's, kind of ups and downs as she's gone through her path are no exception. Really, really wonderful. And again, I'm thrilled that she was able to join us. It's a difficult thing for somebody all the way in Australia to get up at 5 a.m. Now, I do want to remind you, this is awesomers.com, episode number 41. So all you have to do is go to awesomers.com/41 to find all the show notes, details, etc. Well, we've done it again, everybody. We have another episode of the Awesomers podcast ready for the world. Thank you for joining us, and we hope that you've enjoyed our program today. Now's a good time to take a moment to subscribe, like, and share this podcast. Heck, you could even leave a review if you wanted. Awesomers around you will appreciate your help. It's only with your participation and sharing that we'll be able to achieve our goals. Our success is literally in your hands. Thank you again for joining us. We are at your service. Find out more about me, Steve Simonson, our guest, team, and all the other Awesomers involved at awesomers.com. Thank you again.